Yo, BJ Gaddour with thedailybj.com. This is a deep dive on lateral raises. If you don't like spending a whole lot of time breaking down a movement, I've got much faster tips on my Instagram at BJ Gaddour, BJGADDOUR. But this is a deep dive, breaking down the lateral raise and showing everything you need to know about executing this movement and developing the lateral head of your shoulders. So why would you want to do that? Well, one thing, they make your shoulders look wider from the front, and that makes your waist look smaller as well. So you look more jacked up top and your waist looks smaller, gives the illusion of size and aesthetics. It's a great way to develop that. Plus, the lateral delt does not get as much direct work from other exercises. Front delt gets a lot of direct work from things like presses and push-ups, and even overhead presses. A neutral grip will get more front delt, and outer grip with more elbows out will get more lateral delt, but still not as much direct work. When you think about the rear delt, any sort of pulling movement, pull-ups, rows, farmer's walks or carries, even things like Olympic lifting, high pull snatches give you a lot of direct rear delt work, but the lateral delt is one of the heads that gets missed a little bit. So we want to work it more directly. Now, a mistake people make, there are key tweaks you can make to properly activate the lateral delt. I see a lot of people doing lateral raises, but they're doing it in a manner that's actually doing more direct work for the front delt. And this is an example. So when I do a lateral raise and my thumbs are up, my front delt, in fact, is what's opposing gravity. So more of the work will be done by the anterior delt, not the lateral delt. So if you want to do them upright, you want to actually do it with the pinky up. And now that lateral delt is directly opposing the force of gravity, you get more activation. They've actually done EMG research on this, muscle activation research, and the pinky up is the best way to maximally activate the lateral delt. So it doesn't have to be ridiculous, but that slight internal rotation, you'll feel the difference even just going with your hands. Do it right now with me. Raise them up and feel like when you go thumbs up, you actually feel a direct line coming more front delt, but when you turn, lateral delt comes into play more. Another great option is adding a slight hip hinge of the hip, which will allow you to keep the thumbs up, keep a more externally rotated shoulder position. Those that have shoulder issues, history of impingement or rotator cuff issues might find this more shoulder friendly. And all you do from there is that slight hip hinge to create a slight forward lean of the trunk. Back is still flat, and then you raise up, and now that lateral delt is opposing the force of gravity. You actually feel more direct work coming through. We don't want to go all the way down into a reverse fly, because that's going to go more rear delt. So it's a slight hinge of the hip, and you'll feel crazy lateral delt activation. So those are the two ways you can activate it the most. Let me show you with dumbbells, right? So we get locked in here, either with more of the pinky up action, controlling it down. This is kind of the classic way to do it. I like to block my feet together and squeeze my legs together, crunch my abs, clench the glutes, and stay tight in the midline, all right? Little pinky up action. I can also do that slight hip hinge action and keep more palms facing. And again, it could be more shoulder friendly, but not so far down or so much of a hip hinge that I'm getting more rear delt. You want to go lateral delt. Make sure you feel the muscle we're trying to work. Now, let's talk about the actual optimal height of the raise. Now, some could say, well, pinky up and that internal rotation action can be risky for the shoulder, can cause impingement. And technically, yes, it can, but really only if you're going too high in the raise. So you want to try to limit the raise height just to about shoulder level. If you want to come a little bit lower, that's fine. And a lot of this too, we all have individual differences in anatomy, different injury histories. So you play around and you find whatever exercise optimally develops the muscles you're trying to work in, and your taste and preferences. So if you feel that even going a little bit higher is fine, but in general, you don't want to go so high. What happens when I go above, I automatically start recruiting more upper trap, which can cause tension and stiffness, and it's already, for most people, a big, strong muscle. We don't want to put too much work there, right? We want to keep it on the lateral delt. And also, anytime you go higher than shoulder level with that internal rotation and under load, you're at risk of more shoulder impingement. So in general, keep it at about shoulder level. If you want to go slightly higher and play around with that, you can, but either at shoulder level or a little bit lower, and just find the optimal range that makes it pain-free and you still get the benefits of the movement. Elbow bend. I see a lot of people wanting to go really heavy, so they'll go like a full, almost like a bicep curl bend, and then they'll go like this and just destroy it. And you know what's happening right here? A lot of bigger muscles are coming into play. So I might be working my lateral delts a little bit, but I'm tricking people at the gym to think I'm so much stronger than I am by taking bigger muscles and trying to drive the movement with them instead of the smaller lateral side delt. So I prefer just a slight bend to the elbow. And sometimes I'll even go almost straight with like a pair of 10-pound dumbbells. But let's say I could go with 50s and go a lot of elbow bend, all right, and just go crazy. I'd rather go with 25s, keep a slight bend in the elbow, and just do it right and make sure I'm feeling it exactly where I'm trying to work, which is that side delt, all right? So you want to control it. This is not a movement that you really want to go super heavy with. Do that for your overhead presses, and then go lighter load, higher reps, more mind-muscle connection, focus with a lighter load, and feel the muscles you're trying to work. That's key. So I like a slight elbow bend, not too much, and that's really important, I think, for preventing you from using too heavy of weight and hurting your shoulders, right? So those are 3 key points. We went through positioning, best angle of approach to hit the maximally activate the lateral delt. We went through optimal height of the raise, just about shoulder level or slightly lower, and then how much elbow bend, just slightly. And one other tip too, don't think about lifting with the hands, think about lifting with the elbow. So that's going to be another key way, besides either in an upright position going more pinky up, lift with the elbow, and that'll really help you laser in that lateral delt connection. Same concept, if I have more of that slight hip hinge pattern, palms facing, I'm thinking about lifting with the elbow to put all the work through the middle delt. Great way to kind of give yourself an external cue to focus on to rock that out. Now, top techniques. The regular technique is really just, you know, you raise up, maybe a slight pause at the top, and then you lower and control, all right? So that's kind of the classic approach. You tend to want to lower more slowly than you lift. Another option is constant tension, and that will be one where you want to go lighter weight or use this technique when you don't have access to lighter weights. And all that's doing is we're never stopping at the top or bottom, and we're almost stopping a little short of going all the way down so the muscles don't come off tension. So this is what that looks like. A constant tension stimulus would be just staying in motion, rocking it out, and a lighter load goes a longer way, and a lot more pump and metabolic stress coming through those muscles. Some other options, you could add pauses at the top to intensify. So I can hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5 seconds at the top to make a lighter load go a longer way, or just really emphasize building strength in the weakest portion of the move, which is the top position at shoulder height. So I could go 1, 2, 3, lower and control. I could also, which tends to give more of a gain stimulus, anytime you accentuate the eccentric or lowering portion of an exercise, and that can be done by taking longer to do it, for 3, 4, 5 seconds, for example, that's going to put more stress on the muscles, takes that kind of stretch reflex out. So if I go fast tempo, my joints and connective tissues can actually assist me on the movement. You get that tendon slingshot back up. But if I'm coming up and I go hold for top, 1 second at the count, I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's straight muscle work, and you're giving yourself a lot more potential muscle damage and subsequently muscle growth, but you also want to pay attention to recovery, right? So if you are newer to that, or you're going more accentuated, eccentric tempo, just start with a couple sets, and we don't want to get too sore so you impair recovery, but that's another great option as well. So a couple of things I'll talk about. I'm mainly showing it kind of either from here or from here, but there's 3 main approaches or angles you can take, or paths, on that lateral raise. So if I want to come from more of the front, that's an option. I can come straight from the side, which is a smaller range of motion, but probably better for more of that constant tension stimulus. I can also bring it from behind, and that's going to give me a different stretch. So both the front, from the front, and from the back options kind of extend the range of motion and give you more of a stretch. And a loaded stretch is also another way to give you more of a muscle building stimulus. That's what actually, you want to take that muscle through full range of motion under load. That's one of the great ways to fully develop the muscle. And then you can employ some constant tension reps as well. But these are some of the great ways to mix it up. Sometimes I'll go, you can do a complex where you start from the side, then do some reps from the front, then some reps from the back, and just play around with it. Again, if you're going from front or back, because you're extending the range of motion, you want to go lighter load. And this actually brings me to my next point, mixing between dumbbells and what's actually called center mass bells. I don't get anything from this. I just am a big fan of these. They're from Sornex. And because they're smaller and they become part of your hand, you've just got more freedom and versatility, more range of motion, I feel. It's actually easier to go from front and back. So all I do here is the front option, I'm starting here, going out to the side. Still trying to go pinky up unless I go with that hip hinge pattern, right to about shoulder level, slight bend in the elbows. I could also bring it from behind, and you can even kind of drive your knees a little slightly forward, keeping your abs crunched, glutes tight, and just work on that pattern. And you actually see how much of a stretch I get through that lateral delt. Another great way to change it up, all right? And then from the side, obviously, and you can kind of even make it a nice little complex. One of my favorite ways to do it. You also can start mixing in some band work. Now the band is great because it is giving you peak tension when you get peak activation at lateral delt. It also is super easy and unloaded at the bottom position. So those that have shoulder issues, or let's say you already did some kind of heavy loaded work, doing some band cable stuff to finish off as kind of some accessory work for higher reps or finishers is a great way to kind of get a mix of heavy loaded stuff and higher rep metabolic stress muscle pump stuff. So there's a couple options. One, I've got just a basic single band. Again, you can do this with a cable. You go with a low attachment. I can do it from the front. Again, see how much of a good stretch I can get. And I'm just trying to create that line of pull directly targeting lateral delt. You notice that pinky comes up a little bit, and I'm just trying to smoke out. You can even add some iso holds at the top. These are great for higher, 10, 15 plus reps. Now, if I want to change it up a bit too, I can do it from behind. Now I'm getting a different stretch here, and that same concept of pinky up, trying to keep the gravitational force coming right through the middle delt and just pump it up. I can even go constant tension if I want to not come all the way down, pumping it up that way. Another great option is if you take two continuously looped bands and you put them on your feet. And again, band tension stuff is great because even like trying to get some extra recovery sets on off days or whatever, very easy to recover from, easy on the joints. And all I would do here is just come across, and I can even, so obviously there's no tension here, I could stop at the point where there's at least a little tension in the system and just pump them up, trying to get that pinky up as best I can and just really blow up those lateral delts. I could also, again, go more palms facing, slight hinge of the hip, and now I have an option to get more lateral delt. Just make sure you're not to hinge too much so that the rear delt doesn't take over. So those are great options. You can also do extended range of motion sets. These are fun. So you do as many quality reps as you can, full range, all right? And then when you can't do any more, you stop, and then you just finish up with trying to do at least the same amount you did full range, kind of pulsing in the bottom, or try to double the reps. And it's just a great way to extend the time under tension, give you more of a gain stimulus. You could also do drop sets, where you start with a heavy weight for say 6 to 12 reps, rest 10 to 20 seconds, go to a lighter weight, repeat that fashion. You do a single, double, or even triple drop sets, or you can finish off by running the rack. Let's say you started with 35s, then 30s, then 25s, then 20s, and 15s, and within 5 minutes, you can get an amazing blow up of those lateral delts in a good way. Those are great options as well. So went through that. Another two final options. I can't really show this as well as I would like because I don't have really a pole or a power rack or something to lean and hang from, but I'm just going to do it like this. And all we're doing here is just leaning away slightly, make sure it's a stable support structure, and that's going to make it so I get a little more of a force factor coming through at the top of the movement. Again, not the best way to show it, but you get the idea. And then one of my final options here, nobody really has this, but I like to show cool stuff too. It's called the Go Eccentric K-Box, and it's a flywheel. So the faster I raise, the faster it overloads me eccentrically. And I can go one arm at a time, and this is a nice way to just change up the stimulus. And again, the more of an eccentric stress you get, the more of a subsequent muscle building effect we can actually tap into. This is a great option. It's infinite resistance too, because again, if you start going slower, you get less resistance back down. The faster you go up, the more resistance back down, the more you have to control it. So, I mean, that's a ton of ways to do lateral raises. One of my favorite accessory movements. In general, try to do it for higher reps, 8 to 15 plus reps. If you want to occasionally tap into some lower reps, maybe as low as 6, but again, you're better suited getting that heavier work through things like overhead presses, the multi-joint compound movements, and make sure you use these strategic tweaks and techniques to maximize the benefits from those lateral raises. So, man, I'm almost out of breath talking through this. A lot of information. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Be sure to like, comment if you have any questions. Be positive, please. I do my best. And also subscribe to the page so you get notified of the next video. Love you guys. Peace.